Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to show you how you can make your pictures look amazing using Snapseed. Snapseed is free and it's available for Android and iOS, and it's super easy to use. So if you want to learn how to make your pictures look better and pop more, stay tuned. So this is our first image. So first, before we get started, I wanted to mention that you should shoot in RAW. So if you shoot your pictures in RAW on your phone, you have an extra RAW editing tab that's not available if you shoot in JPEG. So if you're not familiar with RAW images, they're basically unprocessed images, whereas JPEG images are compressed. So it's going to be easier when it comes to editing your picture. You can bring back dark shadows and bring down highlights better compared to editing in JPEG. So that's why I would recommend shooting in RAW. You can use different third-party apps to shoot in RAW. The one I use is called Visco. I mentioned it in my previous video about mobile photography. If you haven't checked that out, make sure to check it out. Visco is an app that allows you to shoot in RAW and change some of your settings manually. And then once you edit your RAW images in Snapseed, it will have that RAW Develop tab showing up. So when you click on it, you can change the exposure if your image is a little dark, but I think this one is actually fine. You can change the highlights, you can bring back shadows if they're a little bit too dark. Like I said, that picture, the lighting was pretty good from the beginning, so I'm not going to change anything here. Let's go to the next one. So for tools, I usually start with the curves. So I love this feature, and that's how you're going to make your images pop. So you basically want to create an S-curve. So on the right side, you have the highlights, and on the left side, you have the shadows. So you can create 3 points, and then you want to create an S-curve. So you bring the highlights up a little bit. The midtones I usually leave right in the middle, and then you bring the shadows down a little bit. So you can, as you can see, you can go overboard with it, but I usually just change it as a tiny bit. And then when you look at the comparison, it makes the colors pop more and it gives it more contrast. So let's click OK. Then also in the curves, usually you can do it at the same time, but I just wanted to save the changes. So curves again, you can change the different colors. So you can change reds, greens, and blues. So I usually like a slightly magenta look. So what I do is I go into the greens, and then I bring the shadows down a little bit. And what that's going to do is it's going to add some magenta into your image. Now I don't want my whole image to be purple, so if you bring it down like this, it will change the whole image, and I don't want that. So just a tiny bit, and then bringing the highlights back to normal. Maybe a little bit more purple. I think that's good. As you can see, it adds a little purple to the shadows. And yeah, I really like that look. Makes it look a little more cinematic in my opinion. But you could also change, let's save that. You could also change the reds or the blues. So if you want a little bit more red in your shadows, you could do that as well. Or if you bring it down, it's a little bit more blue. I like that as well. Yeah, you can just play around with it, and then depending on what style you're trying to achieve, that's what you will go for. Blue can look a little dramatic, so it depends on what you're looking for. But for portraits, I usually love the magenta look. White balance you would change if it's a little orange or a little blue. So basically, sometimes if you shoot right after sunset, your picture might look like this, a little too blue, and then you can bring the temperature back to a more natural look. Or if you shoot inside, it might be a little too orange, and then you can bring it down. So that's what the white balance is for. But that image looked fine already. So another feature I love is the expand tool. Let's see if it works. It doesn't always work with every image, but let's say you need a specific aspect ratio for Instagram, for example. You can add to your image, so you can just pull it, drag it out, and it automatically adds, which is pretty cool. And then sometimes it messes up, so you can go back a little bit and then expand it again. So it's basically the same as in Photoshop, content aware fill. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool if you need your image to be a certain size. And it's incredible how it can just expand like that. But yeah, like I said, I don't think we need that. So let's go back. Yeah, so I personally would leave it at that. I think the main one for me is the curves that I like to add. One more thing we could add is this one. So you can basically select a certain area of your image and then change the brightness You can also change the contrast, saturation, or the structure. So if you, for example, let's say your face is too dark, then you can put it on your face and you can just change the brightness on your face. So yeah, I think that's it for this image. Let's save it. And if you end up trying those features, let me know in the comments below how you like them. So let's move on to the next image. All right, so for the next image, I'm gonna start with portrait. So what that does, it basically puts a spotlight on your face, it changes the eyes a little bit, and it smoothes the skin, but I personally think it's a little too much. So sometimes it looks a little bit too edited. So I think it's awesome that you can bring it down a little bit. So the face spotlight, you can do a little less of it, but I think it already looked pretty good at 30. And then skin smoothing, yeah, I think let's leave it at 35, looks good. And eye clarity I think is fine too. Sometimes it looks like this and I think that's too much, but let's bring it down maybe to 12. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Then let's crop it. I don't like the image like that. So if you want to crop it for Instagram, you would use 5:4. And let's zoom in a little bit. Tuning, brightness up a little bit. You can also change contrast, saturation, ambience, highlights. I think those are all pretty self-explanatory. Ambience maybe a little bit up. Details I usually don't change. It's just the sharpness of the image and structure and sharpness, and I think it's already pretty good. Then again, my favorite, the curve. So again, S curve, bringing the highlights up and the shadows down a tiny bit. And let's see, maybe we can create a little different look this time. Let's try blue. Actually, let's try red. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I would leave it at that, but if you want to see some other features, let's see, you can add frames, you can add text. Double exposure is pretty cool. Let's see. If you add that, you could create something cool. Yeah, you can basically layer another picture on top. It could be stars or lights or something like that. I think that looks pretty cool. And you can basically change how it looks, so you can make it lighter or darker. I actually like this one a lot. Yeah, I think that looks actually pretty good. Let's leave that. And what else can you do? Lens blur, I don't usually use that because it looks a little unnatural. You can make the background a little blurry. And all of these most of these other features are kind of like filters that you can play around with. Some of those look pretty good. I kind of like that one. Grainy film. Actually, I think that goes with the image it looks pretty cool with the image. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that image. It looks pretty cool. Let's export that. Export, save as a copy so you don't overwrite the original. So as you can see, Snapseed has so many different features. I would recommend just playing around with it and finding your own style. I hope those tips were helpful, and let me know in the comments below if you have used Snapseed and if those tips were helpful. And if you want to see more of my videos in the future, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.